everybody, welcome back. Today I got a real kind of interesting thing here because usually I go out looking for music or movies or games at Bull Moose, and they do have books there too, used books and magazines and all kinds of stuff, anime. But I was surprised to see this in the game section, and I caught it. We spent probably an hour looking around there or so, and we were just about to leave, and I really didn't find anything. And we are just about to leave, and this was on a hook, and it was $5. And I looked it up online, and I thought, well, okay, this thing is selling for about $5 to $10 online. This old Atari catalog, and then I realized that it's actually full of more. So I opened it up to take a look. And this was great because, let me see if I can get out here without destroying anything. These things catch on the packaging. But there's all these catalogs in there. So I thought I'd take a quick look through them. And for $5, this was a great little find. And not something I really would have expected there. So let's just take a peek in here because this is great to add to the collection for just a few dollars. So here we go. This is the Atari Video Computer System catalog. I don't know if it's one of the earlier ones, but it's got Space Invaders from what I saw. So, I mean, I think, you know, this still could have been printed in the 80. Look at that. Okay, there we go. I didn't even look. 1981. All right, there we go. We got a date. So let's flip through this one. I miss these graphics that they used to do back in the old days. Everything's so sterile now. So the Atari Video Game Computer System catalog from 1981. All right. And then, you know, mostly I'll just leave it here so people can kind of read what's on there, but I'll flip through it quick because this doesn't need to be long, but anyone can freeze if they want to. But this is going to cover 43 different games. So we have a lot of games that we had when I was a kid. So if this is 81, I would have turned 10. So Asteroids, I remember getting this for Christmas. This was incredibly fun, all the variations. I enjoy it much more than the actual arcade version because of all the variations. Missile Command we didn't have, but I played it in the arcade, and I do have it now, obviously. But if anyone wants to see those videos, I've got some videos covering some of the arcade ports that went onto Atari, and I was surprised to find how fun they really are, considering this doesn't have a trackball or anything, and you know, there's features missing. Space Invaders, another one that was made so much better than the arcade because of the excessive amount of variations. I'm going to have this my little helper cat here hold down the page on this side. There was like, yeah, 112. I was going to say there's like 120 or something, but it's 112 game variations, which, you know, sometimes the barriers would slide back and forth. Sometimes aliens would be invisible, you'd be invisible. There was 2-player modes, which was cool. Superman, I remember playing at a friend's house, and it just was so confusing because I was just flying around, never read the manual. Tic-tac-toe we didn't have, 3D tic-tac-toe. Backgammon we didn't have. I know how to play backgammon now, which is actually pretty fun, but I would not have had any clue back then. The Great Escape, which is just Breakout, essentially. You see Breakout or Breakthrough, the variation of the... I mean, these are really basic, but they're still pretty fun. We recently picked up a Arkanoid for the NES with a controller, with the spinner controller, and just like on the Atari having the paddles, it makes a world of difference playing these games with a spin controller. We got Casino Card Sharks. I've never played that. It might be on one of the Atari collections I've got, one of the plug-and-plays. Game of Concentration. That's probably kind of fun for a little bit. Bowling. I've got a video up of bowling. We had that obviously back because we used to bowl a lot. The family bowled. Football. I don't recall us ever having. We had Human Cannonball. This one's pretty fun. I like these games. You know, they're kind of like, I don't know if anyone remembers, like Monkey Basic. Is that what it was called from in Basic? Microsoft made it. It might have been actually programmed by Bill Gates. But it's just one of those things where you do angle and speed and then account for the win and try and get into the little basket there. Checkmate. This is obviously a chess game, which I would never have played, but Crown Me is checkers. I mean, just these graphics are impressive. These hand drawings for the time, they're really cool. And obviously the games had nothing to do with these kind of graphics, but it was really fun seeing box art like this back in the day in these catalogs. This catalog probably came inside of an Atari itself, or maybe once in a while you get one of these in a pamphlet holder at maybe a game store at the time, maybe a Service Merchandise or a Sears or something like that. We had this Night Driver. It's pretty fun. It's a little repetitive, but it's pretty fun. You have the night and day cycles and stuff, so it's pretty cool. Snare a square. Yeah, Othello. I was gonna say this must be like Othello, so they obviously had to. Oh no, they're just saying that as a title. They did have the official Othello on that name. Everything had rip-offs back then, which a lot of litigation occurred in the early days of video games. I'm sure it still does, because people would rip off certain ideas and just make a knockoff that sometimes is knockoffs were even better than the originals. Air Sea Battle was probably one of the first few games we had. That's super fun with 2 players. I had 2 older brothers that are 3 and 4 years older than me, so that was really fun to play. And just the variations in these games made it great, because if you got bored, you could just do that. And then there was variations where it made it harder for one player. So if my skill level wasn't up to theirs, we could play games where it would even it out. Skydiver, again, another very basic but fun game where you're trying to calculate wind and speed of your drop and when to pull the parachute so you can get down faster in 2-player mode. Trapped is clearly like a snake game, which we didn't have. Video Graffiti version, what is that? You just draw? Yeah, you would just draw, so it wouldn't turn into like an Etch-a-Sketch. And we had a lot of games, but when I consider the price of them back then, they were probably $20 to $30, and that was a lot of money back in 1981. So I can really appreciate that my parents were willing to buy games for us, and as many as we had in those early days. Hit Me is just blackjack, brain games. I don't know what that is. Maybe I should try that sometime. I've never seen it, and I don't know if I have it on anything though. So, but if I see it in like the Bull Moose where I got this, they do have Atari games, 2600s that pop up once in a while, and most of them are the old ones like these types. So I don't know if I've seen brain games there, but I'll keep an eye out for it now. Circus Atari is very fun. It's, again, so basic, but a paddle game. I mean, people don't understand these days how fun it is to use special controllers, and that's a shame that I don't think, or let's say I think it's a big miss that they don't make a special controller for newer systems nowadays, because a paddle controller or a spinner, they could invent so many more or bring back so many classics even on modern systems. And I mean, they work for steering perfectly well, which, there's lots of driving games out there or things that tie into driving. I mean, I would really think it'd be great if you played Grand Theft Auto and they came out with a special controller for like the PS5 or whatever it's going to be on, and they actually made a special controller with a spinner in it so you could actually steer. That would be fantastic. Everyone would buy it. Pele Soccer, really basic. Pele was a huge soccer player back in those times. One of those early, really famous professional athletes that, even though people weren't watching soccer in America much, everyone knew who Pele was. Adventure, played through that, several times. We had that back in the old days. Indy 500, which is similar to like Sprint or Indy 800, which I've been thinking about it because people have been asking questions about first arcade games you've played or something, or thinking back. And I think Indy 800 was the first arcade game I ever played. It's a version of this, essentially, but it had 8 wheels around it, so 8 people. So, and that would have been in 1975 or 76. So I would have been like 4 or 5 years old, and I do remember holding onto the wheel and standing on my tiptoes to be able to see, and actually, like, my father holding me up to be able to see better. And it wasn't bad because you played against 8 other people, and this was down at the ocean by the arcade in Old Orchard Beach that I recall playing it first. So long, long ago. Hangman was a little basic, we never had that. Outlaw, again, another basic game, which is based off of, most of these were based off of Atari arcade games from the early, the late, or maybe the mid to late 70s. And a lot of them were black and white, or they'd add some color on the screen with maybe some foiling or something to make it look a little better. Combat was probably the very first game we got. We had the Sears Telegames and not the actual Atari brand, so it was the Sears version because they had a credit card for Sears, and I think Combat came with it. Golf, we never had that, which surprised me because my father liked golf always, but this is a pretty bad golf game. I mean, if you played it more and more, I could see, and especially back then when you didn't have any choices for golf games, really. I mean, maybe there were 6 or 7 golf games in existence back then, and most of those may have been arcade ones. Maybe 6 or 7's even high. Video pinball, I've always disliked this version. It's just so ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't really play like pinball. The ball doesn't bounce quite right. It's just a little square. And I mean, they could have added more features in there. I mean, it's okay for what it's worth because, I mean, again, these were some of the first games ever made, along with maybe some Odyssey and the Fairchild Channel F or something like that, which we didn't have. All we had was the Atari, which ended up being by far the most popular one of the early days. Home run, basic baseball game. A lot of these were really scaled back, and you were just like moving these players. So if there were 3 outfielders, they just all moved together. Code Breaker, more math stuff. Basic programming. Basic programming is, I don't know how basic that would have been on something like this. It probably had virtually no programming. I can't imagine you could have done anything other than having it show maybe a little graphic or a little, words or something. I don't know that you could put any logic in it because they really wouldn't have had the memory to be able to handle that. Street Racer. I think this is not a drag race one. It's actually racing. Slalom Dodgem. Yeah, probably a pretty boring version. Dodgem we played this a lot because you could play 1 or 2 players. You could be the player avoiding the car, or you could be the person trying to crash into the other player. But this is one of those ones where you could learn the patterns and get to a higher level. Flag Capture, again, just a kind of hide and seek game. Never had that one. Fun with Numbers, never had that. They never used it for education for us, that's for sure. Video Olympics. I'm pretty sure we had this one because it had all these just variations of Pong. Did I say the Atari was the first system? The Atari really wasn't the first system we had. We had one of those Pong ones. I don't know which brand it was. I can't remember. I was too young. I would have been, it's like a memory from being 4 or 5 years old. It was one of those ones that plug in and it had like 2 built-in controllers. You had to sit next to each other and play it, and it plugged into the TV, and it was just a bunch of Pong variations. I have to ask my older brother sometime to see if he remembers what company or brand it was. Slot racing. I don't know what the difference is between this. We never had it, so I don't know if it's similar to Dodgem. Bombs Away for Canyon Bomber. Yep, Bombs Away. Yeah, I keep reading the title of what they're trying to make it exciting. But Canyon Bomber we had. That was fun. It's really enjoyable to just like get it just in the right spot, and you rip through a bunch of those and get a lot of points. Slam Dunk. I don't think we had a basketball game on there. I did play this in the arcade though. Again, they did their best, but it was way too basic in those days. Warlords, definitely. I never played this in the arcade. I never played it on the Atari 2600 until probably 20 years ago, actually, when I got one of those first plug and plays. Maybe it hasn't been quite 20 years. Maybe it's closer to like 17 or 18. But I could see why this was really cool because you could have 4 players. The paddles came in different variations. Sometimes you could have a single paddle to plug in, or you had one paddle that plugged into port 1 and it had 2 on it, and then you could plug another set of paddles into the second port, so you had 4 total, and you could have 4-player. I guess this may have been the very first 4-player video game ever. I mean, I'd have to look it up, but it just seems like at home that would have been the very first one. Other than something that you would have simultaneous playing, not something that you could play 4 players, but all at once, probably never before that. Maze Craze, probably a basic maze game. I don't think I've ever tried it, even though it's probably on one of those collections I have. So look at this. You can join the Atari Club. Pretty neat. Only $1 for a year. Try getting $1 from your parents back then, though, for anything. They'd spend money on us, but, you know, just casually asking for, like, can I have $1 for this, or can I join something like that? They'd be like, no, not going to happen. Look at these cases. These racks. This one looks pretty cool because you must press the button and there's probably a little spring loaded that pops it out. So they're storing the manuals on the end. They don't quite fit. But that would have been... Does that exist anywhere? Does anyone have one of those? I'm going to look that up on eBay. They're probably like, you know, 60, 80 bucks now. A little chart here that tells you which games work with which controllers. Paddle, keyboard... Oh, that's why. See, the basic program, we never had the keyboard controller, brain games. That's why we never had that. Maybe it came with it. This one's torn a little bit, but that's okay. I'll probably tape it up. But yeah, I would have thought that there was some crossover where some used both, but maybe I'm wrong. It's probably because I'm just thinking of the newer plug-and-plays that if it didn't have a paddle with it, you know, those plug-and-plays for Atari, it was just a joystick. They would actually put paddle games into the joystick games and just reprogram it for that, so... Well, there's the first catalog. There's one down. All right, so what's next? I'm going to flip through this one because the top must be missing, but we'll go through this pretty quick because there's going to be some duplicates in here, but you'll also see that, you know, the graphics are a little different on here. There's another one for the Indie, Video Olympics, yeah. Not really like hockey, but, you know, early more like ping pong or tennis games. Beam Me Up Captain Starship. I have no idea what this is. I'm going to have to look this up. I can't believe when I see games, I mean, knowing that I play games all the time and look up stuff constantly, that I've never seen Starship. Burn Rubber. Looks like, yeah, the Street Racer game. Surround. Yeah, we've seen that, but these have a little bit different graphics than the other guide. I don't know if I have what year this one is. It looks a little newer to me, but I'm missing the cover on it, so. But every game is still showing in here, so I thought it was still worth having. Air Sea Battle. Space War. I don't think that was in the other one. Space War, look at that. May the Force be with you. I wonder what they were referencing and how they get away with it. Lucas must not have trademarked that yet. May the Force be with you. I bet they have since, or at least Disney has. Outlaw Home Run, same ones. Great Escape is just Breakout. Hunt and Score. A lot of these are in the other guide, but the graphics are a little different and the layout's a little different, so it's kind of cool. It's a smaller one, so this may be one that came inside of a box for the cartridge or something, maybe some game. I'm just trying to flip through this one mostly to see if there are any different games in here. Slot Race is the same. Casino's the same. Bowling, Skydiver's the same. Just different graphics. Oh, here's Miniature Golf. I don't think Miniature Golf was in that last one. We just had regular golf. Again, a horrible, horrible game. But when considering for the time that it was out, you know, it had a lot of replayability and it was fun. It's very unfair. It's hard to play it. Slot Machines, Human Cannonball again. Football. Canyon Bomber. Again, very, very fun. Atari never stops inventing newer games. Are they going to show me new games? Checkmate. So maybe this one is older. This might have been an older guide. Superman, if they're saying these are new games available soon, yep. This would have been an older catalog. Oh, that's surprising. So this might have been from like 1980, this one. All right, moving on to, here's 1982. Oh, so we might have an 80, an 81, and an 82 catalog, which is pretty cool. to just be in one little bundle of for me to buy there when I found it. Again, I was so happy to just catch this at the last second because I was about to walk out and they just had it hanging on a peg hook with some other random stuff that you never would have noticed if you just happened to not look there and think, because this is what was on the front in the bag, so it caught my eye immediately. Like, oh, that's Atari stuff. I could tell by those graphics. All right, introduction. Start your adventure today. So this might be a little more modern. So this is showing pinball, but not even showing. So skills gallery. So they've separated them into different galleries, maybe different sections. Demon to Diamonds. We haven't seen that yet. Oh, here we go. What a much more modern layout, amazingly. Less of the cartoony stuff going on. So we got Breakout, Circus Star, Human Cannonball Maze. All these we've seen before, but more like the graphics you would have saw on the cover manual or on the actual box. Here we go, Pinball, Super Breakout. I like Super Breakout so much better because I think it's game number 7 in there, which is perpetual, or where the blocks keep coming down at you. So it's much more fun. Look, they're sneaking a little Pac-Man graphic in there. I almost missed that. The classics. This will be all the old stuff. They would call them classics. I would call them usually more boring games. Backgammon, Casino, Othello. We've seen all these. Tic-tac-toe, video checkers, and video chess. Yep. Space. Yeah, after Space Invaders and until Pac-Man for like a year and a half, space was just everything. Every game was space this, space that. Berserk. Look at that. Yep, I was going to say that's probably pretty new. Available August 1982. So this would have been an advertisement before Berserk even came out. A pretty awesome conversion considering what the Atari is capable of doing. Sure, it's missing the speech. I wish they would have just put in some little bleep blop sounds for like when, intruder alert or something like that. Just a beep, 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 something, but they didn't even do that. Star Raiders, yep, played that. That was kind of fun. Asteroids, Defender, Missile Command. Now these are what I would call classics. They were calling classics like board game kind of stuff. Yar's Revenge, we haven't seen that yet. The Space War on this one, they look much larger. I don't know if there's one or two players, but 17 games. There must be multiple versions of Space War. So again, there's if anyone wants to see some of the I'll put links at the end because I've played probably about half of the arcade conversions that I own, and I don't have any more, so I'm only playing stuff that I have. And there might be one more which has video that I'll have up, which has paddle games. So, and it's interesting that I had not had much interest in the Atari until everything had skyrocketed in price for cartridges around 4 years ago, and it seemed like the only thing that didn't go up was Atari stuff, and Atari stuff was showing up a lot in the Bull Moose store when we go in there. So I picked up lots of games for $1 or $2. Maybe a few of them were a couple bucks more, but I got lots of great games for really cheap. Adventure's fun. Haunted House, we haven't seen that yet. When did this come out? Is this a later game? I've never played through Haunted House, like a full gameplay of it, so I should try that sometimes. There's Superman, very confusing to me. It looks really good, but I remember just flying around like screen by screen because I just didn't know what to do. Race games, there'd be a ton of these. Dodge 'em, Indy 500, Night Driver, all fun in their own right. But again, Indy 500, does this use the paddle? I should have looked at that old thing because a lot of games like this now just use a joystick. Like if you get an arcade collection or something and you get games like this, you have to use a gamepad or a joystick, and it just doesn't handle the same as being able to use a paddle where you can turn it or a spinner. Sports was always horrible in the early days. It might have been more fun if you played 2 players, but we didn't really get any sports games on the Atari that I recall other than bowling, which bowling was, if you want to talk about all these sports games, bowling probably was the best. And then Combat Zone, Video Olympics, hardly considered a sports game. It's just a fancy Pong. Again, these three are must-haves on the Atari, especially if you can play two-player. Outlaw would have got boring really fast. I'm glad we didn't have it. And Warlords would have maybe been fun, but just never had it. Learning, this is going to be horrible. Again, I didn't realize that you had to have Math Grand Prix. I don't think we've seen that before. So that would have had, you get the right answer and move it along. So they were trying to make it more fun, which you can't. You just can't make math fun. Donkey Kong Jr. Math definitely proves that. That's about as fun as you're going to get with a math game, and it still isn't fun. So again, these are, maybe it'll have that little chart in the back, but finding out that these would take that that controller pad that was like a number pad, that definitely was probably a deal breaker for a lot of people. Oh, look at this, some accessories. I mean, these cases, while they looked good like this, oftentimes underneath that storage area was just weird. Things didn't fit right in them in a lot of these cases. This is the kind of stuff that, would be storing cassette tapes for computer programs and stuff in the day. So I think they just decided, oh, we'll kind of riff off of that. And these were probably the best, but, not a lot of storage if you had a lot of games. This looks fuzzy because it is fuzzy. It's the print. Coming attractions. Not much. That's a great drawing for, the old days. That's the thing. People used to have to hand draw all this stuff. There was a market out there for someone that had a lot of skills with drawing. Now we're at the point where artificial intelligence will draw something, 10 times, 100 times better than this in 5 seconds. But you look at it and you're like, that looks really cool, but there's no artistry or heart in it. So what do we got? Coming attractions. Nothing really. I mean, they're not talking about any coming attractions. That's all the games that have been out already. So there we go. There's another catalog from 1982. So that's pretty cool. I got 80, 81, 82. I'm just speculating. Now what's last in here was a couple of Activision ones, which was even, more exciting. So this is a fold out. Let's see if I can, it's got a tear in it, but let's try and get this all. I'll try and get it all on the screen here at first. There we go. So let's just look through here. We got boxing, tennis. I'll just run right along. Everyone's seen these. Laser Blast, Kaboom. Kaboom. So the best ones, let's say, Kaboom, out of this. One of those, when they stop talking about memory unlocked, skiing. I had totally forgot we had skiing, and I used to play it a lot until I saw a video about a year and a half ago, and I was just like, holy crap, I totally forgot about that game. It is so weird that there's things you will never think about until you see something that just triggers that memory again. All right, let's look at the back side. Ice hockey. Ice hockey is a pretty good version of hockey when you talk about, again, kind of like Pong, but you got characters at least on this one, so really cool. Here's the game designers. We've heard a lot of these guys over the years, and some of them are trying to make a comeback. Atari is making a comeback big time right now. And there's the front cover of that one. Now if I can get this to fold up perfectly again. Not bad. All right, I'll just show this because I don't know what this is in there. It was a warranty for the game, for an Activision game, but it was thrown in there, so someone must have had this from a box. And then here's the last thing we'll take a peek at. It is a Activision catalog, winter of 1982. What was this other one? That one was from 82 also, so it would have been cool to get one of these from a year later, just to have 4 different years, but Doesn't matter. This is all different stuff because it's Activision. Sequest, Spider Fight. Oh, some good stuff in here. River Raid, one of many people's favorites. Skyjinx. That's okay. Skyjinx, they should have made it also. I don't think, can you shoot stuff in there? I can't remember. I'll have to play that again because I know you're just going around, but if they would add a shooting element in there, it probably would have improved it greatly. Mega Mania is amazingly fun, but it's a ripoff of some Sega game that I didn't know about for years. Pitfall, again, classic. We played that so much, hours and hours. I remember going down, once in a while we go down below and you just see how many scorpions you could jump, because you'd get in a section where you check out a new underground area and you'd go through like 20 screens before you'd pop up again. It was insane. Like I said, Star Master was kind of fun. We used to pretend we were playing Star Wars with that, me and my friend. Chopper Command. I've never really cared for Chopper Command games. I can see why people like them, but Kaboom, again, very fun. Freeway, just okay. Stampede, okay. Barnstorming, it's pretty basic, but I like playing Barnstorming. I don't know why. Fishing Derby, Laser Blast is neat. Boxing, tennis. Geez, I wonder if we're going to see. So they're all in different sections. Okay, had a little hiccup, ran out of memory, so I'm going to do this flip again here. And got skiing again, ice hockey, which we know is really good. Grand Prix Dragster, and finally Bridge and Checkers. Now, did I miss Keystone Capers, or had it not come out yet? Maybe it's 1983. New for use within television. Pitfall, and that's right, the Intellivision would have been out competing with it. Look at all these. These are the patches people could have won by getting high enough scores and sending off to them with a photo. So pretty cool. Again, the Keystone Capers must not have been out yet. So that might be one of the very last games we ever bought. Unless Miss Pac-Man came out after that. So I think those were kind of the last two games we got until I bought for myself sometime around 83, 84. Ghost Manor and Spike's Peak, which was a double ender game. So that one was super fun. Not a lot of people like them, but I think people should check it out. But there we go. There is the batch of Atari manuals I got for $5 from our local Bull Moose, which was pretty cool. They had another packet like this, and I opened it up, and it had less in it, and it had the basic manual for basic computer stuff there for the tutorials for that, and I had no interest in that really, so I thought this was a better bundle, and I left the other one. I could have bought that one and broke it apart and then sold it for more money online, but I like people being able to go out and find deals too. So if there's something I don't really need, I'm not going to buy it just to flip it. I'd rather someone else found it and got a good deal. So there we go. A little out of range there, but hopefully this was a little interesting to anybody, and if not, doesn't matter. I mostly do it for myself, and I just hope that others come along for the ride and enjoy it. So if you did watch, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. So long.